Now it's time for a little bit of storytelling with Rose of Sharon. This one is one I had written not too long ago. It's called The Polite Peacock of Pondecherry. And I am not going to read the synopsis because it'll give away quite a few bits of plot points, so without further ado. Chapter 1. Life on a Peacock Farm. Akash Singh lived a rather extraordinary life on his parents' peacock farm. The peacocks were all individually named, and Akash could distinguish each bird one from the other. They loved him dearly, and he had a real way and connection with them, whatever bird crossed his path, and animals in general. He hoped to breed them as he grew older, but he was actually driven to become a rock and roll star. Akash's rigid father, Deepak, was vehemently against the idea of his one and only boy becoming some kind of reprobate. Akash was first and foremost a gentleman and treated everyone he knew with a smile, a hearty handshake, or a warm, encompassing hug if he trusted them. Almost everyone adored Akash. He had a certain charisma, but wanted to entertain the masses just like his heroes, Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan. It took some begging and a little pleading, but with the backing of his mother, Lakshmi, Deepak was able to see that being a rock and roll star wasn't a one-way ticket straight to hell. One didn't always have to live a life of sybaristic hedonism, drinking, drugs, and explosive sex. Akash still was a virgin and planned to save himself for his wedding night. He was only 19 at the time. He would become a man, and his father had his sights set on one particular girl that Akash had always loved since his youth. Her name was Farah, and she had come from a rather rich, wealthy family. Wealth wasn't the reason that the Singh family wanted to reunite with the Patels. The reason for the union was because of the family's deep friendship and confidence in each other. Deepak, after all, had saved Mr. Amrit from a fire that cost the Patels everything, but thankfully, Amrit and his pets weren't hurt. The family had to start from scratch with many of Amrit's manuscripts for Bollywood films, but fortunately, he had saved all of his information in the cloud. Everything was recovered in time. Chapter 2. Making himself a name. Akash began playing the guitar and writing songs. He hadn't gotten any big-time gigs, but he had been headlining in a few clubs. Everyone really loved his soulful covers and his romantic crooning. He loved belting out Bollywood standards and Telugu love songs. He even enjoyed humoring people with oft-rare requests of songs not even heard on the radio, let alone played anymore. Any song that gave people joy, hope, and rejuvenated them, that was why he was playing. He stoked their inner flames of inspiration. He knew that, and that was what drove him forward. One day, he was playing in the local square during the farmer's market. A record producer happened to hear him and wanted to boost his image. His name was Rohit Rahad, and he had gotten many people famous. His wife was a very popular Bollywood producer, and she had been known for her choreography and music in myriads of films. Akash couldn't believe his good fortune. He felt as if he was living every fanboy's dream, but it came at a cost. Akash was far too much from his papa's peacocks, from the farm and country life he had grown so accustomed to. He almost cursed his golden pipes, his guitar and sitar skill and rhythmic interpretation of music. Had he not been so devilishly gorgeous, he wouldn't have been picked. At least, that was the going sabotaging tape playing on repeat in his mind. He longed to go back home, despite the fact that he had thousands of fans and had become incredibly famous. I just want to help the less fortunate. This is not what I wanted to become, he thought, starting to become sad in his bedroom. It was the night he was about to turn in for the evening when he received a call on his mobile. "Layla, is that you?" he queried, rubbing his eyes at the blazing image on his cellular device. It was his old school friend. He hadn't seen Layla in years, but she had grown increasingly stunning. She was now a fantastic wedding designer and a floral arranger. He also owned her own clothing line and made it so everyone could afford signature pieces without spending through their noses. "It's me, Akash. How could you forget? Don't you remember how we used to play in the schoolyard? You and me were the double Dutch champs of Pondecherry," she laughed. He wondered how she could possibly land at a gig this prestigious. Before he could even inquire, she began to tell Akash her story, and it seemed that her love for him hadn't altered in any way. Akash had nearly forgotten her and felt a big bit guilty about nearly having moved on from Layla. She was absolutely resplendent. He felt his cheeks growing hot just looking at her. Clearing his throat, he offered her a date after many years of letting his shyness overtake him. I was wondering when you would get up the nerve to ask me. Good thing patience pays off, Layla said, winking at him playfully. Chapter 3. Doing it his way. In the weeks and months that followed, Akasha and Layla began to date and started becoming exclusive. He did things in his own manner with Layla's help outside of industry parameters. Though the music industry was highly competitive, he managed to make a name for himself and help those who either needed a boost to become motivated or individuals who simply needed a primer on how to navigate the working world. In time, he developed Akasha Industries, which was a job market to teach skills, trade, etiquette, and other overlooked abilities to people willing to learn. In time, Akash Lay was a well-known leader in hands-on training and education. Akash Lay was a business that spread like wildfire in underdeveloped countries, particularly to those who wanted to begin their own business. With latent income, it began to become a big contender in stocks and bonds. It wasn't as pronounced as an oil tycoon or retail mogul, but they had definitely made their mark. The music was what started it all. One little concert had been a catalyst to changing millions of lives and causing third world countries to begin making strides in their everyday worlds. All it took was the strum of a guitar and uplifting song to pick people out of their funk. It had been a truism all along that music unites whereas other elements cannot. It was coupled with the intention of agape, and with that at its side there was no stopping. Akashe. Chapter 4. I'm proud of you, son. It had been years of Akasha and Layla being on the road that they had made their monumental decision to become married. They hadn't even been intimate as of yet, but the two always had immense passion for each other. Should we send an invitation to your dad? Layla asked as the two sat down to a late luncheon on their touring van one day to their next charitable concert. Dad's going to hate me. I left the world of peacocks behind long ago, and to be honest, I'd like to return to it. Someone has to run the farm when he dies, Akasha said with a hint of sadness in his voice. True. I could see your mother accepting wholeheartedly. She's the one who's been Skyping us from afar for ages, Layla reminded him with a sweet smirk. She playfully tickled the underside of his calf with her big toe and giggled. Okay, that's it. Retaliation is in order, Akasha declared, getting up from his seat in the table and tickling his lover for a moment. I'll ask him via video. I'm a bit anxious, but sooner or later, Dad has got to acknowledge me as his son again, Akasha said. The two turned on Akasha's laptop and dialed his mom. Hi, so good to see you. Where are you off to this time? Lakshmi questioned. We're heading to Belgium. We've been all over Europe, Layla responded. Deepak reluctantly came out of the kitchen, having overheard them talking. He already knew this conversation was a big deal, and the two of them wouldn't have initiated it to begin with. I've heard everything you're doing. Firstly, I want to apologize. I've been a fool for too many years. I was upset that you didn't want to sing traditional songs or follow the path I had prescribed for you, Deepak began. There were tears in the gray-haired man's eyes. Behind the square bifocals, they were magnified, and Akasha felt like weeping himself. It's all right, Pop. You were angry. I understand, Akasha acknowledged. It's all water under the bridge. Why did you want to call? I know it wasn't just to reconnect, Deepak said sagely. No, we wanted to invite you to our wedding when we return to Pondecherry, Layla said honestly. I also wanted to let you know that I will be retiring from being a rock star. I wanted to return to the farm. I know how to handle the peacocks, and they still think of me as their mom, Akasha confessed. Deepak's pride was bursting at the seams. He was surprised that after all that time and fame and glory that his only son wanted to return to something so mundane and quite frankly thankless. However, Akasha loved his work. Peacocks were important, not only as a national symbol of India, but as pets, a trade element for their beautiful feathers, and a fashion statement that surged in popularity every now and then. Besides, they would always make incredible designs and tattoos for so long as people lived and breathed upon the earth. Epilogue. Incidentally, the tour led back to Pondecherry. It was the final concert that Akasha ever performed. Members of his band moved on to continue performing his songs with permission and always kept the mission of Akash Lay at their top of the priority list. To this day, Akash Lay remains a mover and shaker as far as job banks are concerned. More of half of the unemployed and underemployed who are trained and educated by its services move on to change and transform everything around them, including the illiterate and otherwise uneducated. Akash and Layla married near the touristy Taj Mahal. It was Akash's ultimate declaration of love for his childhood sweetheart and longtime lover. It wasn't long after that they welcomed twins into the world. The two boys, Deepak and Rohit, were difficult to tell apart, but one had an unmistakable dimple that made him clearly identifiable from his quieter, more introverted brother. Nowadays, Layla and Akash lead a simple life with some fans that will come and want to star in their music videos. After his wedding, his heroes Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan and others had come to supply them with wisdom and gifts. They even welcomed them to their homes in Manat and offsite in Dubai whenever their family had the chance. One day they would, but their lives after becoming parents had shifted their schedules intensely. It had made their world better despite its challenges and pitfalls. The two twins thrived on the Peacock farm, growing to adore the animals to speak to them as much as their father had before them. They would come to inherit Akashlay, as well as when they were old enough to understand the philanthropic organization. Only now, the two boys were more interested in exploring India and relishing in its celebrations as they received notary fame and appearing in cameos in their films, as well as their parents had done before them. The end.